Hello, how are you? Yes, this is your teacher Busuulwa Joseph. Once again, I'm back with the history of South Africa, which is history paper 4. Today it's a bit different. We are having 2 classes at the same time. This history is actually targeting the senior 2s and the senior 3s. Okay, so this is actually lesson 1. And we are going to be looking at nation building in South Africa. Now, at the bottom there, you can see my contacts. There is my telephone number and then my email address. As I've already told you that we are going to look at a nation building in South Africa, we also have to know what we are going to be looking at in this lesson. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at, we need to know the meaning of nation building. Then after knowing the meaning of nation building, then we are also going to look at the Zulu Nation and its leaders. Remember, I've said we are looking at nation building in South Africa, and we are starting with the Zulu Nation. Okay, now when you look at that map, it is a map of South Africa or Southern Africa. Okay, the Zulu Nation is actually is here. I think you can see the Zulu Nation is here. You can see KwaZulu Natal. In the north, the Zulu Nation is surrounded by Swaziland, then in Mpumalanga province. Then in the east, of course, you can see it is surrounded by the Indian Ocean. Then in the south, it is surrounded by the Eastern Cape, and then Lesotho, together with the Orange Free State. So this is the Zulu Nation we are going to be looking at today. Okay. From that, we've seen, now we are going to look at this information. You remember, I've told you we are going to know the meaning of nation building. So here we are knowing the meaning of nation building, and it refers to the process of different communities coming together to form powerful states under leaders such as Mosheshi. This man Mosheshe sometimes is the name is written as Moshushu. Okay, so in other books you will find this name written as Moshushu. So the difference is the greatest similarity. Then other leaders, we had Sobza, and then there was also Muswati. These are some of the people that formed that led people into formation of different nations. Of course, we will not forget about Shaka, who expanded the Zulu Nation. We will look at that. Time is coming for us to look at how Shaka built and expanded the Zulu Kingdom. Now, nation building, we are saying, was due to the period of the Mufekane in South Africa. Now, one is wondering, what is Mufekane? Okay, what was the Mufekane all about? Now, the moment you see Mufekane, we are talking about a period of trouble, a period of suffering, where people suffered a lot. In other languages, it is referred to as Lifekane or Difekane, which means forced migration. Therefore, during this period here, some powerful states were establishing themselves. Some powerful states were swallowing up the small states. And these states that came up included the Soto state under Mosheshi. Then there was also the Zulu Kingdom under Shaka the Zulu, and so many other kingdoms. Okay, so we are saying nation building was majorly was during the period of the Mufekane. So I've explained the Mufekane to you, and I believe you now know what we mean by the Mufekane. Now, we are going to look at the origin, the foundation, the establishment of the Zulu Kingdom. Foundation, establishment of the Zulu Kingdom is what we are looking at today. Now, before we begin on the Zulu Kingdom, we need to look at an outline of the Zulu leaders, okay? Yeah, because we needed to know this. It was so, actually, it is important for us to know these leaders before we switch over to the Zulu Nation itself, okay? Now, there was this man called Dingiswayo. This one was born in 1806 and he died in 1817, okay? No, sorry. He started ruling in 1806, not actually being born in that. He started ruling in 1806 and then he died in, he died in 1817. And then later on in 1818, the Zulu chiefdom took over or swallowed the Mthethwa kingdom, because Dingiswayo was the leader of the Mthethwa kingdom, of course, in KwaZulu Natal, okay? Then there is this other man here, Shaka, the Zulu, that is 1818 to 1828. He started ruling the Zulu people in 1880. The father died in 1816, and then Shaka took over in 1816, and he expanded the kingdom in 1818. That is when he started expanding the kingdom. It was after the death of Dingiswayo in 1817, and then Shaka expanded the Zulu chiefdom to even swallow the Mthethwa kingdom, which was under Dingiswayo. Then we have Dingane, who ruled in 1828 to 1840. Now Dingane succeeded Shaka. And for your information, Dingane is among the people that that connived and killed Shaka. Okay, Dingane, his brother Malagane, then there was Impande. All these ones killed Shaka, and then Dingane took over in 1828 up to 1840. Now, in 1840, Mpande took over from Dingane. Okay, Mpande took over from Dingane, and it was after the Battle of Bloody River, where Dingane was defeated by Mpande with the help of the Boers that had gone into the interior to establish republics there. Then there was Setewaya. Okay, in some other books you will find him written as Sestishwayo. Okay, now this one ruled from 1872 to 1879. Then lastly, there was this young man called Dinizulu, who ruled from 1884 to 1813. From there, we are now going to look at the reign of Chief Dingiswayo of the Mthethwa. Okay, we begin with the Dingiswayo of the Mthethwa because, yes, the Zulu Kingdom was a small chiefdom under the Mthethwa Kingdom. That is why we begin with the Dingiswayo, chief of the Mthethwa. Now, Dingiswayo was born in 1870, okay, in KwaZulu Natal, automatically in South Africa. Then this man died in 1817, still in South Africa. His mother was known as Mabamba Kadonda. Okay. Then the father was known as Jobe Kakai. He had Jobe Kakai, of course, who ruled Dingiswayo ruled from 1806 to 1817. Then the siblings, we had Mawawe, there was Tana, and so many others. Okay. Yes, here we are. I believe you people are following. I believe you are following. Yes, so we are now. Before we begin on this subtopic, you might be given a question of this nature. Describe the career and achievements of Dingiswayo of the Mthethwa up to 1818. Of course, you look at what Dingiswayo did, and then later on you also look at the achievements. And this is the very format we are going to use when answering, or this is what we are going to be looking at. We will be looking at the career of Dingiswayo and at the same time the achievements of this man. A moment. Sorry about that. So from there, we are also going, you might also be given a question of this nature, that how did Dingiswayo build and expand the Mthethwa state? Okay, so when you are given this question, of course, look at the positives that were done by Dingiswayo in the building of the Zulu Kingdom. Now, we've come to the content, okay? We've come to the content, and we are saying that the Zulu Kingdom started as a small chiefdom of the Mthethwa under the leadership of Chief Dingiswayo. This is what I've told you at the beginning, okay? That this kingdom started as a very small chiefdom, and it was under the Mthethwa Kingdom. And by that time, the Mthethwa Kingdom was under the leadership of Jobe, the father of Dingiswayo. Then later on, actually when Jobe died, he was succeeded by Mawawe, his son. But later on, Dingiswayo came back from where he had gone to hide, because there was a time when Dingiswayo wanted to kill his father and then take over leadership. Okay, so when the plot was detected, the man had to hide in Hilubi Mountains. So when the father died, that is Jobe, Mawawe took over. But later on, Dingiswayo came back and took over from Mawawe. Of course, he tricked him and then later on killed him. Okay, so we are saying the Zulu chiefdom started as a very small chiefdom under the Mthethwa Kingdom, which was under Dingiswayo, and by then the Zulu chiefdom was under Senzangakona, the father of Shaka. Okay, so statement number 2 here is that Dingiswayo was a son of Jobe, who was the chief of the Mthethwa. I've just talked about this, okay? That Dingiswayo was a son of Jobe, the chief of the Mthethwa, okay? Then he grew up at his father's palace. Now, we are trying to describe Dingiswayo, okay? Trying to describe Dingiswayo, and we are saying he grew up at the father's palace, and then he became one of the important nation builders in South Africa. There is no doubt about that. He became one of the important nation builders in South Africa. Now, I've talked about this, that at one time Dingiswayo tried or attempted to kill his father and take over leadership of the Mthethwa. Okay, now all this information now goes under the career. Okay, when you are looking at achievements, you may not look at this one. This one can be put under the career. So we are saying at one time he tried to kill his father and take over leadership of the Mthethwa. Okay, now, however, his plan was detected and he fled to the Hilubi Mountains, where he spent his youthful life. I've also talked about this, okay? Now, while in exile, that is the Hilubi Mountains, Dingiswayo gained military experience from a European surgeon known as Robert Cohen, who taught him how to ride a horse and then use a gun, okay? Now he became a complete fighter there. At the time when one could ride a horse and then use a gun, yeah, that one was a complete fighter. So he became a complete fighter after being trained by Robert Cohen. Now, after the death of his father, Mawawe, Dingiswayo's brother, succeeded the Mthethwa throne. We've also talked about this, that when Jobe died, it was Mawawe that succeeded him. But later on, Dingiswayo came back from the Hilubi Mountains and killed Mawawe and took over the leadership of the Mthethwa Kingdom. Now, Dingiswayo returned home, overthrew and killed Mawawe, and made himself chief of the Mthethwa. So we have talked about this, okay? Here we are with this other information here. Remember, we are looking at the career and achievements of Dingiswayo. So most of what we have looked at so far, we are looking at the career of Dingiswayo. Now, before his death, of course, Mawawe, okay? Mawawe had fled, but he was tricked to return and then later killed by Dingiswayo, you see. I think Dingiswayo wouldn't be so sure of his throne if he did not kill the brother, because you never know. Mawawe would also have organized, okay, and then killed Dingiswayo. So Dingiswayo did it first. He killed his brother Mawawa in order to be safe. Okay. Dingiswayo was more concerned with protecting his people against Zwide, the chief of the Ndwandwe. Okay, yeah, Zwide by that time was also another fierce fighter. Okay, because at that time it was majorly survival for the fittest. You understand? So Zwide used it to attack the different nations there. He used to annex them. So what Dingiswayo did was to make sure that he organizes a very good force that would fight against Zwide, the chief of the Ndwandwe. Okay? But unfortunately, the same Zwide killed Dingiswayo. We will look at that. Okay? So Dingiswayo therefore built a very strong army for the Mthethwa chiefdom. Now when you look at this, of course this is an achievement now. Okay? He built a very strong army for the Mthethwa chiefdom. Okay? Now, Dingiswayo started a system of AG regiments called Ntanga, aimed at having an efficient army. So when we talk about AG regiments, we are talking about organizing fighters according to their age. Okay, having fighters fighting according to their age. This is what Dingiswayo did, and it was such an efficient army at the time. Now, each AG regiment was given its own spears and shields, and the army could easily be moved to different places. Okay, each AG regiment was given its own spears and shields. So all these, we are looking at achievements now of Dingiswayo. Now, however, the army was later made permanent or stationed in specific places due to many wars. You can imagine he had an army that he stationed in different places, and all this was to make sure that the kingdom is protected from the external attackers and those that wanted to take over his power from within. Dingiswayo abolished the traditional circumcision practice to make his warriors full-time in military service. You understand? This is the extent to which this man wanted his kingdom. At the time, they so much cherished circumcision. But this man said, no, I am not circumcising my warriors. Just imagine if I am attacked when my warriors are circumcised. Won't they defeat me? So he abolished circumcision in order to make his warriors full-time warriors in the military service. Now, all the youth were made to join the military regiments in relation to their age. All the youth in the kingdom, you can imagine, all the youth in the kingdom were forced to join the different age regiments. Now, age regiments and the tribal unity were so much encouraged by Dingiswayo as they fought together during the different wars. Okay. Now, Dingiswayo appointed the military commanders or indunas to be in charge of military age regiments. Okay. He had indunas or commanders, and among the indunas he had, there was a man known as Shaka. Okay, you call him Shaka Zulu. Yes, there was that man called Shaka. He was among the indunas. He was among the age regiments. You will know that Shaka did not grow up from his father's palace. No, he grew up from this neighboring chiefdom or kingdom of the Mthethwa, where he was actually prepared and nurtured by Dingiswayo. Okay. There is this other information here that Dingiswayo expanded the Mthethwa chiefdom or state to cover about 200 square miles. You can imagine how he expanded the kingdom. Okay, all these are now achievements of Dingiswayo. He expanded it to cover about 200 square miles. Dingiswayo fought and defeated some of the neighboring communities and made some of these people his subjects. Remember, he talked about the survival for the fittest. At that time, it was majorly survival for the fittest, the law of the jungle. It was only the fit that could survive. That is why we are saying Dingiswayo attacked the different communities and then made, of course, defeated them and made some of these people his subjects. That is how he also expanded the Mthethwa kingdom. Now, Dingiswayo married from different clans to create peace and solidarity, or what you can call social unity among the different clans. Now, it meant that almost all the clans, people from the different clans were relatives. Because if the king married from the different clans, then that means there were siblings, all over. At the end of the day, clans could not fight, and this created what we call social unity. Now, Dingiswayo created friendly ties or relationship with the whites at Cape Delgado to prevent them from attacking him. So we are now looking at him creating friendly relations with the whites, and this was aimed at stopping the whites from attacking him, and he successfully did that. Now, Dingiswayo also imported European goods and encouraged these people or subjects to buy them for a peaceful coexistence with the Europeans. You see, now he was telling his people to buy the European goods, and by doing this, he was also trying to create a very good relationship with the whites in order to stop them from attacking him. Now, Dingiswayo developed a skin and hides industry in order to add value on their hides. You can see at that time. So all these are achievements of this man Dingiswayo. He came up with a skin and hides industry, and this was aimed at adding value to their hides. Now, Dingiswayo groomed, mentored, nurtured, and trained Shaka for future leadership as a successor of Senzanga Kona. Right? I've already told you that Shaka grew up from Dingiswayo's kingdom. Of course, he could not grow up from his father's palace simply because he was actually looked at as a bastard. You understand, eh? Yeah, he was looked at as a bastard. And that is why he did not grow up from his father's palace. There was some discrimination there. So, under Dingiswayo's army, Shaka was groomed, Shaka was mentored, Shaka was nurtured. And then Dingiswayo advised him that the moment your father dies, go back and take over power. And indeed, this is what Shaka did. He went back and killed his brother that had succeeded Senzanga Kona, and that was Sigujana. And then he took over power. Okay? Now, we are saying that, however, Dingiswayo was killed in 1818 by Zwide of the Ndwandwe, and his skull was taken to decorate the heart of Zwide's mother. I talked about this, that Dingiswayo so much worked, so much fought against Zwide. He expanded his army because he was against Zwide, but finally in 1818, Zwide came up and killed him, and then the skull of Dingiswayo was taken by Zwide to decorate the heart of his mother. Okay? Now, of course, we've come to the end of this session, but of course, at every end of the session, we normally get a very simple exercise. So there is this simple exercise of describing the career and achievements of Dingiswayo, right? So you'll actually find this in our Google Classroom, and for the senior twos, you can see our Google Classroom is down here for the senior tools. Oh, sorry. For the senior twos, our Google Classroom, you can see it there. And then for the senior threes, again, the Google Classroom is also down there. So what you do, you install Google Classroom on your phones, on your laptops, and then you enter there. When you are told to give a code, these are the codes you put in, and then you are straight in our Google Classroom, where you will find even the notes. These notes I've just given you here, you will find them in the Google Classroom. Okay, thank you so much. You have to check out the playlist below. Of course, you will see the playlist for so many other videos that you may have missed. Then, of course, don't forget to subscribe in order to get more upcoming lessons for all the subjects. May God bless you. Okay.